Name basketball star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar recently talked with Time.com. Here's what he had to say.
More whites in America believe in ghosts than believe in racism. And that's why we have shows like Ghostbusters and not Racist Busters. Racism has obviously been a hot topic with regard to sports in Mr. Sterling's problems. But racism as it relates to society at large is something that we don't talk about enough. And inclusion should be the keynote of American life. We have people from all over the world that come here and they can become American citizens and have a wonderful life here. And we have to emphasize that as opposed to the things that take us apart.
That was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar talking to Time.com. Phil, I'll pose the question to you. Do you think that sports needs to be a stronger voice leading the conversation about racism?
Well, I think the voice could always be stronger, not just in sports, but in other industries as well. I think it's worthwhile to note that the advances that have been made in sports. I mean, we have in the NBA, it's not uncommon to have black coaches, black general managers, black quarterbacks in football. I think we do see the meritocracy aspect of sports, but I think Kareem is right in saying that we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back too much in the sports industry. That just because we've made progress doesn't mean that that things are solved or that racism doesn't exist in sports. We've seen that from Donald Sterling. That's one of the things, maybe the positive things that we can say about this, is that it has shown that that even in sports where you would think that it's just about who the best player is, who can help you win, even in sports, some racist beliefs and attitudes can creep in. So I think sports could be a stronger voice always, but I do think that it's worth acknowledging the fact that sports has been, in many ways, a strong voice against racism.
Yeah, if there's anything from this sordid affair, I guess that's good, is the fact that the conversation is hitting the national marketplace, and sports, generally speaking, has been a leader when it comes to race discussions in this country. Obviously, starting with Jackie Robinson. So, if there's anything good that's sort of good that comes of it, I think the conversation that people in sports and around sports are having is good. I just want, and this is a bit of a side point, but I just want to say that because we saw a little clip there. Is anyone buying what Rochelle Sterling is selling? To me, an absolute sort of con game that this woman is running. I mean, she's also shocked that there's gambling going on in Casablanca. It just, Donald Sterling, absolutely loathsome figure, totally deserves everything that's coming his way. But this notion that Rochelle Sterling has been positing lately, somehow that the comments are abhorrent. I separate myself from this.
Well, it looks like she's just trying to save face now. She said that she's met with Commissioner Adam Silver to try to find a new CEO for the team and that she wants to be involved in these talks going forward. I don't know whether the commissioner should let her.
Well, she hasn't separated herself that much. I mean, after everything came out, she was seen out in L.A. with Donald Sterling, taking him to dinner.
Totally.
So I think she knew what he was. I think she was a part of what he was. At the very least, she didn't denounce what he was. So I think this is about as much as her as it is him at this point.
So where does the story go from here? I mean, aside from figuring out who Donald Sterling is going to eventually sell the team to after that goes through what we think is going to be a long litigation, what else do you want to know about this story?
I want to know what happened from the first time we had these allegations against Donald Sterling. What was going on in the NBA's mind that they didn't take action then? What was, David Stern thinking? How did he let him go all these years with these type of sentiments, with all of these discrimination lawsuits going on in LA? How did it come about that, Donald Sterling got the better end of the deal when Chris Paul was sent to the Clippers? What happened with all that, and why did it happen?
Elizabeth, I didn't mean to interrupt Phil. Elizabeth hits on the right note. Why was this guy allowed to sort of run rampant in the NBA when, it was an open secret in Los Angeles about the housing discrimination cases that he had. The guy sort of, this has not been a very good man throughout his NBA tenure, yet David Stern pretty much let him walk. If nothing else, I think there's going to be an interesting discussion. I'd be curious to see what Phil thinks on, even though these are private organizations, what should an owner be, and what should a professional sports owner be and represent, especially in a sport where most of the people on the court are African American? The Sterling situation, I think, is going to lead us to interesting places in sports ownership.
Phil, you were trying to interject there. What did you have to say? Go ahead.
Right. I was just going to say I agree with everything that's been said. I think what I would like to see is I'd like to hear from David Stern. I'd like to, he has been conspicuous by his silence during this entire thing, and he's the guy really who has the most to answer for in terms of the NBA and how they handled or failed to handle Donald Sterling in the past. He has said nothing, and I think that he has to. I think it's incumbent upon him to step forward and talk about talk about his inaction. The other thing I would like to see is maybe a little more um, attention paid to Donald Sterling, the landlord. I mean, we've looked at these past lawsuits and depositions and all the sordid things that have come out, and we've asked ourselves why it didn't make us look at him more seriously as a potentially possibly racist owner. But what he did itself in the discrimination cases is still kind of, I think, shuffled into onto a back burner. I talked to one of the lawyers who was part of the one of the housing discrimination suits against Sterling, and he said that Sterling still controls about 5,000 units in Greater Los Angeles area, living units, and there's no reason to believe that he's any better landlord now than he was then. And so I know this isn't a sports part of the story, but I think a closer look at Donald Sterling's business practices and his practices as a landlord would also something that should be undertaken here as well.